This Monday, September the 12th, 2022, let the record reflect this meeting is posted according to Texas Government Code 551, better known as Texas Open Meetings Act. It is available both online and in person. We've not had anybody sign up to speak online this morning. My Corps of Commissioners is present and established. Everybody's here, but Commissioner Montgomery, who previously notified us he would not be able to make this meeting. So with that being said, our first order of business is open forum. Is there anybody here for open forum? There being nobody here for open forum, we're gonna go down to budget workshop. Gentlemen, we've got the proposed adopted budget that you guys were handed out last week. Hopefully you've had time to review it. If there's any questions about it, things that we still need to do, problems we need to fix, please let me know. We'll go through it this tomorrow morning. We're going to adopt this thing one way or the other. Go for it, Karen. What do you-
Oh, we talked about in other my fuel last week.
Which we did.
What?
Hold on. We want to pull $1,000.
I think you put it to 4,200.
That's wild, because I can show you where it's 4,500 on the computer. All right, I'm glad you caught that. But no, we'd already put it at $4,500. Yeah, I've previously. Yeah, that's ridiculous. But we're having those pullover problems. The reason everybody's got this, reason there's so many eyes on it, because we have found other issues where things aren't pulling over the way that we input when we roll over proposed to the adopted. So that's the reason I wanted everybody to spend a week looking at these things. So good, what you got?
Line for uniform. If you had Kathy, I need to add that on there.
Well, we gotta know about this first. Do we need a uniform for Kathy? Because she's not going out and about everywhere. She's gonna be in the office is what I've been told. So, I mean, it's policy of the Commissioners Court. Who do we provide uniforms for? We normally provide uniforms for those parties that are gonna be out and about different buildings, different places, so they can identify themselves. Because I don't want somebody from the sheriff's office having to show up when we have an individual who goes, "How work for the county?" And how do we know? So the question is, do we want Kathy to have a uniform expense? We've been pretty stingy with that in the past, so.
All you're talking about is a t-shirt.
Yeah, that's what she's doing now.
Yeah,
But she's purchased her own so far.
I don't find myself in favor of it. We don't provide for any of the other offices or for most of the other offices inside the courthouse. I don't provide for my office. I don't know that I mean, you obviously, yes, because you're out and about in the county all day long, you need to be identifiable.
I tried to refund Lissa for her t-shirt she bought and I got rejected on.
There's a lot that goes along with it because it makes a lot more administrative work for the auditor's office, the IRS reporting, because it's a benefit and something that has to be accounted for, whether nobody wants to wear one of those out, obviously, but that's just how it is. So it creates more than just, hey, a couple of bucks for a shirt. That's not the point. There's a lot more that goes in the back end of it. What else have you got?
That's basically the one way to feel about that.
I appreciate you pointing that out. We proposed it 4,500. Is that sufficient?
I believe so. I think we're gonna
Good.
over this little right now. So I think that would be kind of depends on what happens.
Okay, the other thing you'll notice in that department, an increase in 1105 line that staff wages, that shows where we put Kathy to full time. In participation of the White Bluff project. What else you got? I'm sure you would. So you got the latest and greatest. All right, gentlemen, put these aside. Here you go. You're going to get some more money right now.
Okay.
So right here.
They did not generate correctly.
We found another issue this morning. Karen pointed out the general fund, general road and bridge line did not pull over the amount that yeah, it did not pull over the fuel amount because that was 4,500. I specifically put that in. See, it's only 3,500. It's 45 on my computer. You got to put 45 in there.
Okay.
It needs to be because she's going to burn 4,500 on us this year. Extra 4,100. Keep going. So.
Okay. No.
Oh no! Oh, thank you. I say I already printed this, but I appreciate it. So, all right, look at let's go to this adopted budget, the one you just handed. If you'll follow me along, you'll see the budget certificate, table of contents on page 7, and then go to page 8, which is the recapitulation page. And the recapitulation, we're showing, this is based upon you guys going up to 9% of the general fund. Guys, I won't ever vote to go beyond 9%. I have to operate the rest of this county too, and it's getting pretty expensive. So I went up to 9 because that's what we talked about. I'll vote for that. That's the highest highest percentage y'all have ever gotten at the general fund. So what we've got is beginning balance in the general fund of $8,325,000. Again, that's a proposed beginning until we get the books at the end of the year. That is always nebulous, you know what I mean? And then the ending balance of $8,356,000 and change. So we're about 25,000 to good. Again, that's predicated upon that beginning number being what we think it's going to be, because we're trying to project a month out in advance for who's going to spend what. If you look at your general road and bridge, we have a decent starting balance of 75,000. It's a little easier to predict. We have an ending balance of 18,000. We would have had more, but again, adding Kathy full time takes that down. Road and Bridge 1, guys, we need to allocate some funds on these things because your beginning balances have gone up. Road and Bridge 1 has got 660,000 beginning balances. They get about 285,000 still they could budget. Road and Bridge 2 has about 105,000 they can budget. Road and Bridge 3 has about 99,000 they can budget. Road and Bridge 4 has 40,000 they can budget. And then you can look respectively down your FM lateral lines of 34,000, 84,000, 37,000, 59,000. So, and that's moving money out of indigent health, moving money out of the road and bridge, taking advantage of the tax rate. I mean, you name it. That's everything I can do to get money to you. That's what's there. That's how much money there is. So, those are the recapitulation numbers. And again, you look for everything is going to have a decent balance coming out. We're not projecting anything to have a negative balance in next year, nor would we do so. So that is any questions regarding that. That next page is 9 is the statistical data, and that shows you your M&O, your INS for your general fund. The total general fund as we proposed at 0.389494, and then the FM lateral at 0.069685. And you show how this works out through our estimated tax levies, our estimated collection rate of 96.5%. We go down below that, and that shows you the interest and sinking calculations for the Series 22 construction note, limited tax refunding, and our total obligations for that matter. So now we have total obligations outstanding on October 1 of this year will be $4,055,000, and that will be reduced to $3.4 million and $70,000 on the end of next fiscal year. So total payments of $668,719 for next fiscal year and debt service. As you can see, the revenue projections, these are our estimates and the auditor's estimates and mine as to what are the projected funds that will come in this next year. Again, revenue projections are always predicated upon the idea that we can look at historical values, and that's how it's going to be. And we all know that that tends to change from year to year. So this is our best guess. We are very conservative in our estimates because that's the last thing I ever want to do is put a bunch of pie in the sky in there that didn't come true, and then we get real problems when the money doesn't show up and somebody spent it. So we use fairly conservative numbers. You'll see that the sales tax is still just exceeds what we've been saying. You know, we did not project an increase in the sales tax from this year to last year simply because of some economic concerns that we're seeing. With the interest, the Fed raising the interest rate and proposed to do it again. You know, I'm not an economist. I can't project what the market's going to do. I can't project what it's going to do. But I do think that we're going to see ourselves in an economic slowdown here. So we thought the safe route at this point was to propose the same revenue and sales tax, or close to the same as we've seen in the last 4 quarters. But at the same time, it could go up beyond that. We just don't know. Questions on revenues?
No, I think that the sales tax, I thought I had changed that, it's 2.9 billion where we can increase that.
That's what I thought we did too. Yeah. I thought we were going to stick at the 2. What do we have total right now? So we got 2.407 and
General's part.
Yeah. Is it 2.9 overall? I thought that's where we left it at, was a 2.9 overall.
Okay.
But we can go back and look at it. If you feel comfortable with 3.1, I'm willing to talk about it.
The sales tax, we could discuss that.
Gentlemen, you have a preference on this one?
Hello, you put one, included me in a couple of things where I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to.
That's what I'm worried about.
That's pretty good. Well, let's look at 3.1. We'll bring that guys to you tomorrow, and if that's something that we think we need to do, or we can justify at this point, we'll talk about it. Sorry, to make some notes over here. Oops, somebody. All right. Okay. All right, any other questions on revenue projections? Again, this is. As you can see, overall revenues aren't going to be too shabby for next year. You see some of the special budgets by fund as they go forward with it. Then we get over to our expenditures, and we start off. Do you guys want to go through each and every one of these? How do you want to do this?
Sorry.
You want to go through each and every one of these? How do you want to do this?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it 100,000 times by now. And so I just don't, I mean, if you guys have a chance to look at it, I want to sit here and bore everybody to death.
You want to hit the high spots.
My budget, no major changes other than salaries. So, and that's going to be because we're taking a COLA. And the non-departmental, I told you we're going to set 500,000 aside for contingencies. We have done so. That is to fix the county payroll and fund it. Once we get that corrected, we're working on fixing the road and bridge today and adopting that today. So we put the final numbers in the budget this afternoon for tomorrow's final budget adoption. But the additional 500,000 in contingencies is to cover any cost associated with funding the payroll policy. That was a problem previously, is we did not have the funds to fund that payroll policy, and it ultimately it inhibited the way it worked. So those are the departmental expenditures there. You'll see capital outlay. We have projected at 722,000. That's in the general fund capital outlay. That's going to take care of a couple of odds and ends. I will tell you additional monies out of the, if we do raise the sales tax, if we did raise additional money, I would put it in there. We talked to some elevator folks the other day. If we could put an elevator in this courthouse, it's going to be quite the expensive proposition. Plus we have other projects that are going to get taken care of. So just everything said and done with that. We have some, what else? What other highlights here in this one? Nothing else too serious. We put the JPO's car in there, like we spoke about. Bless you. Moving along to IT, we gave full raise. Everything else is kind of what we talked about previously. There's no surprises in this thing. Let's move over to county clerk's office. We just took everything out of her budget and redistributed it to everybody else. If anybody's paying attention, we did no such thing. Somebody was paying attention. That's good. Hers is just as asked before. The county auditors, again, the only thing, the salary is reflective of the changes approved by the district judge. On page 32, county treasurers, the same before. 33, the tax assessor collector, there's been no changes to that. Facilities, okay, so starting on page 33, the old courthouse fund, we've renamed it to be more accurate, transparent in what we're doing. It's really not just the courthouse anymore. So we call it facilities and maintenance. And the facilities and maintenance fund covers obviously several different buildings. You're going to have the courthouse, the fairgrounds, 505 Waco, AgriLife, the support services building, and Covington Street and Huron. So all those facilities, we have started putting their own expense lines in here. Our goal is to better track for the general public. Now we track internally. We've got internal documents for this stuff, but for the general public to see what we're spending on each one of these buildings and try to what we're proposing to spend on each one of these buildings. Try to make this a little more transparent. So we've changed the name on it, but we've also kind of changed up slightly what's in this. So you'll remember that the fairgrounds and it was in the 5301 budget. We pulled it out of 5301 and put it in here. We're just trying to consolidate our facilities and maintenance in one place. I expect that in future years, we'll add more to this just to try to, again, make it more transparent as to what we're spending. Moving on to 36, elections administration. This is basically where we talked about last time, no changes there. District Judge's Office, reflective of our previous conversations. County Court of Law is the same thing. Same thing. District Clerk, no major changes there. District Attorney, as presented previously. County Attorney, again, no changes there. County Attorney excess is a formula calculation of County Attorney's excess salary. That's as proposed previously. JP1, no major changes there. We did raise all the JPs and constables as we spoke about previously. That's no surprise. It's something we've previously done and worked on in this court during this budget session. So you'll see those reflective of bringing those salaries up. That's the same for almost all of the JPs. JP3, we did put some additional monies in because we're gonna have a new JP next year, and just anticipate there's gonna be a little more training than there has been in the past, because that first year those JPs had to get an insane number of hours, something like 80 hours. So we've stuck some more money in to cover that. We've been made aware of some problems with the building at Malone. I'm understanding that that's being addressed at this point, but I'm gonna go check on that personally on Thursday. So that may be something that we have to talk about further going forward. And I think we've had some preliminary conversations regarding that. Constables, no major changes in the constable's office. Constable 3 is still the senior constable, therefore the point person for the constable secretary and the constable deputy, which has been working out quite well for us. We got up to date on papers. I can report as of my last examination last week of the navigator system that there's nothing out there, no papers to do more than 30 days, which is more than acceptable. So they're getting things taken care of and getting them served, and I'm happy about that. Your bailiffs, we still have the 5 staffing positions for the courthouse for security. No major changes in that fund. As it goes to the entirety of the sheriff's office, the LE, page 52, you have the 3102 fund. We've gone back through that capital lease line to make sure that it's going to cover the proposed budget for the titles, and we believe this number is reflective of that. So what is the next one here? We have the 3104 line, which is your health and safety officer, Mr. Ward. I appreciate the good work he's been doing around Hill County and really making the place look better, and we're thankful for that. Page 54 is animal stray, no major changes there. I told Ricky, hey, maybe you don't need to ask for anything else after you get that set of pins. And he laughed, but anyway, he's doing a good job. That guy really does good work for the county. So I'm glad our animal control stray officer is doing what he's doing. I'm glad you guys have been supporting that. Dispatch remains, I think, 10 employees and staff wages, which is, what we've been for the last couple of years. The rest of that kind of follows down what we previously spoke about. You will see there is a significant increase, though, in the overall line from 22 to this year, about $50,000 increase, a little $50,000. Most of that, 25,000, that's in wages. The rest of it's kind of spread out over health insurance. Health insurance just expensive to get out. Page 56. This is a school resource officer program. We put it in its own separate budget, like we did, outside of law enforcement. So it's not combined in its easy track for the school resource officer. I think it's Itasca and Covington, the 2 that we're in the process of working with. And we'll track it like we do the environmental officer, like animal control. So it's got a separate budget. You can see what those monies are. There's less confusion to anybody that looks at this document. They can see what our plans and our intents are. The jail law was just, the one big ticket item in this budget every time is the jail. And it is what it is. We're under mandates from the state of Texas to provide certain services and ways, and it costs money to do so. Salary for the jail this time, total benefits and wages is 2.4 million and change. Operating expenses of 51,000, and supplies of 521,000. And we have a lease payment that is for the transport van, because we are required to transport inmates, and we try to keep that fleet up to date. Last thing you want is some poor officer broke down on the side of the road with a van load of inmates. That's not good for anybody. So overall budget 7.13 million for the jail this year. Come to general emergency management, floodplain management. In this budget, you start on page 58. No surprises in this budget. It's still rocking along like it was. Everything is pretty close. We did reduce dues and memberships this year. We reduced training mileage reimbursement. We're just not using anywhere near that much, so we're returning that money to the general fund. Bonds and insurance is reduced. Again, we've looked at that several times, and I don't know what we're missing, but we're missing something. And I want to look at that one more time. 13301, 2303. I'll make notes here.
What do you do
On the what? On the repair line, we went to 27,000 from 20,000.
Well, the only thing I'm concerned with is this radio project is ramping now into more marketing than talking. That there's something there for contingency, like if we miss anything. Came up, we're having, I mean, just little things. I think we covered the bases. I don't think we've overlooked anything. I would just hate to have to come to court, and that may be what you would rather do anyway.
Well, we do have contingency of 35,000 built into the budget for any contingencies that come up, but I agree. I hope that we've done. I hope that we thought of it.
I think we've covered all the bases, but again, this is such a margin taking. And it's really an area that we're not that comfortable with.
Yeah, learning something.
We've got good people to work with, but I don't know, just trying to be sure.
Gotcha. No, I understand. We'll double check that number as well. So fuel went up because in emergency management, you have the vehicle, you have the van, you have the boat, you have the UTV, you have the generator, you have the light plant generator. All those things keep fuel, unfortunately. So it's a function. Usually a single office like this has a much lower budget for fuel. Again, we have multiple different apparatuses that we're paying for out of that budget. No capital outlay in this line, and we have a capital lease of 3492 for the debt service in that line. Then operating expenses. Okay, so we go to 5301. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. I hope and pray that next year the autopsy and transport doesn't go up again, but we went from 130,000 adopted last year to 180,000 this year. And we think at the moment that that's going to cover it. And I'm sure we'll get a nasty surprise like we did last year at the end of September and 20 invoices come in or something. I hope that's not the case, but our hope is that this is going to start leveling out. COVID affected a lot of these last 2 years. There's a lot to be said for the amount of folks that passed away at home unattended, where IJPs went out in COVID. By moving the pauper burial down to Engine Health, they have had a good amount of time to go through our contracts, identify weak points, make changes. You guys have seen some of that. What we're doing is trying to manage our way out of a situation where we're paying $200,000 a year just to autopsy and transport. It's not going to get cheaper. Our limited options, we can go to either American Scientific or American Forensics, or we're not using Tarrant County for obvious reasons at the moment. They have a little problem up there. They're getting under control. So, and we are still in talks with the local hospital if they do bring a pathologist out here to be able to do some limited, don't call it an autopsy, but postmortem blood draws. That's one thing we send from American Forensics. Doctors work on live people, not dead people. So sometimes you just need blood draw from the individual to figure out what substance was in their system that did the job. Well, we're trying to work something out. Have some basic conversations with the hospital right now about that. Again, in the same 5301 fund is our public welfare assistance fund. We have child welfare, mental health and aging, which has it's gone an increase last year, did not increase again this year. We're still supporting Meals on Wheels. Remember that $10,000 that we put in there is used against a match in kind, and they get a significant amount of money from the state of Texas, Texas Agricultural Development, Department of Agriculture. We moved cell block and the fairgrounds into the facilities and maintenance fund, as we talked about. And the mental illness is proposed to be the same as last year. Veteran Service Officer, Brad's the kind of guy that just doesn't ask for anything. So when he does, you pay attention. I remember time he turned down a raise in commissioner's court. He's like, no, I don't need that. So, yeah, everybody take notes about how Brad does things, please. Anyway, no major changes there. We did, put a little bit more money in his fuel, because he's making this work, but I'll be honest with you, when this Crown Vic goes away, we're gonna have to up this guy's fuel line drastically. That Crown Vic must get really good mileage is all I can think. So I hope it lasts him another year. He seems to like it, but at some point, we're gonna have to start talking about replacing that vehicle. The sedan works better than the SUV. The clientele that he is taking care of is a little bit older, mobility challenged, and he says it's easier for them to get in and out of that sedan style car. So we're gonna keep our eyes peeled, what available things may be out there. Not that I dislike. I have nothing against a Crown Vic, okay? I think they're fine vehicles. And this one should be put in the Smithsonian as soon as we're done with it, but
I bet it was.
it just keeps on ticking, man. I don't know, that car is amazing. So, moving along to crime victims assistance, we're required to have a crime victims assistance for most of our grants. She gets a good part of her salary paid for. We're not paying that young lady that little amount of money. Hers is usually grant funded. And I believe we got the notification, we got the grant again for this year, so we should be in good shape. The tax increment finance fund, remember we created a tax increment finance district some time back, so there's 13,000 allocated into that. Ag extension, we moved a problem here.
We put the ag extension wages, we added a line for all the wages, and now staff wages, it's just their secretary. But we have that line 1114 is all of the age.
I got you, forgive me, I mistook it.
Something about the way the program works.
Yeah, when I saw, oh, so that's what we're paying, all right, so 1105 is what we're paying Leanne Keller,
Yes.
okay. And then the ag extension wages, all right. When it carried over, it confused me. Thank you. So they're taking their advantage of 5% COLA there as well. Taking advantage, they're participating in, I should say, forgive me. Most everything else in that budget is pretty close to where it was last year. Again, machine equipment running us up. That's simply because that's a function of what it actually cost us. You know, when we're looking at those contracts. In general road and bridge, for whatever reason, the 7100 3202 line, the fuel line did not pull over. I had that at $4,500. It's back to 3,500. I was going to put that back at 4,500. That's a minimum what that thing needs.
Well, ag extension, way have electric bill expense instead of separate building.
So we provided for those utilities in the facilities and maintenance budget and not in this budget. So anything associated with the cost of the fairgrounds now will be not just the exhibits building in the show ring, but also the Henry Wallace family, whatever it is, but also the new building over there as well. And we did take a guess at what that would be. So again, this year it's a scientific guess. There's no history on that building yet. We'll figure out how that works for it. But we feel pretty comfortable with those numbers. I know that I've talked about them, Susan's talked about them, Tamara's talked about them, and we've kind of gone back and forth to everybody. Major part-time, let's see, staff wages, Kathy's coming on board. Part-time wages is zero, because the FEMA project has come to an end, and as per instruction of this commissioner's court, that means that we no longer need the position filled for the administrative. It's no longer being funded on the back end by a partial FEMA grant. So her last day with us will be October the 1st on this payroll. And then we've moved Danny Boddicker back into precinct 1 where it should be. So Alyssa Watson is more than capable and will be the one entering into the cartograph system moving forward. And that'll unify some things and correct a couple of issues that we had. So that's your general road and bridge. The gentlemen, you have your budgets. And as we talked about, remember from that recapitulation page, which would have been on page number 8, you guys have got some funds to allocate. There's still money left in your budgets at this point. You can either leave it in unbudgeted reserve if you think your current budget reflective of how you are, or you can budget those funds, but if you go over them, you're on your own. So you need to guys kind of let me know today where those are going to go so that we can fix those numbers this afternoon.
I haven't done anything with Larry's, fuel, the skirt, whatever we're getting, asphalt, the super truck or. Haven't put anything in the budget for that. I did
Okay.
increase your beginning balance for the funds you just received. Less what you projected you would.
Be close.
So Road and Bridge 2, you have, you've got the truck ordered, but it's not gonna show up till next fiscal year.
It's gonna be probably in, it'll be in probably in October.
Okay, so we're gonna pay out of the FY 23 fiscal year for that truck.
To what?
We're gonna pay out of fiscal year 23
Yeah,
for the truck.
probably. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And what's the cost on that truck?
262,000
262.
in some sense. I don't.
Okay, let's call it
262.
All right, and what we've got here for next year's budget allocated for capital outlay is 400,000. Now you have an additional 105. What's that?
You don't have any in capital outlay. That's the-
Thank you anyway, but
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong budget. I apologize. Sorry, I jumped budgets on this here.
it's gonna be financed.
So, all right, guys, I got a question for you. Something we talked about Friday afternoon about 5:30. Instead of paying interest to somebody else, we got 35% general fund. Can we loan him the money out of the general fund and then have him repay it like we did Andy a couple years ago for the building? I mean, instead of paying interest to a third party, if we finance that out of a unbudgeted area and then he's got a structured payment over the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is.
1%.
1% each day, yes, compounding, no problem. Here, sign on the dotted line, it'd be good.
I forget, the rate was gonna go up,
That's my deal.
10%.
That's what I'm looking at, is instead of charging ourselves interest on this, we can, on this, because this is a large purchase.
Mm,
We have the ability to do this, we have limited abilities to do these kind of things. I don't want to think every time we've got something, we go borrow against the general fund.
Mm.
But we have a healthy enough beginning balance, that instead of paying these inflated interest rates we're seeing right now, it may make sense.
I-
That would be my only. Well, that's all right, it's okay, not picking on Larry here, but
Yeah.
we do this to him and then Mark wants to do it next year. And we don't have the money to do that.
It's gonna
Get
be,
into a-
yeah, it'll be contingent upon. Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah, so again, it's gonna be contingent upon us having the funds and meeting our requirement of 35% of our unbudgeted,
Is there a way we could do that? Charge him some interest.
Oh, yeah, we can
Not
charge
like the guys would, but I mean,
1%, 2%, we
I mean, cut
could.
us a better deal than that way, it's.
It's still all house money is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I'd
So-
rather keep it in-house, but,
Yeah.
but I
You
don't,
understand what I'm saying? Pick on you here.
yeah,
You know,
if I do it and you, next time you can't do it,
and I'm not saying me, I just.
Yeah.
Each precinct.
Well, we didn't, I will tell you this, we didn't charge Randy interest. We just went straight out, that's the money you pay it back, and we loaned him 200 and
200,000.
it was more than that at the end, but yeah, somewhere right in that area, I think so. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to it if we want to set a formal
We
policy.
can do it without charging interest, that'd be great.
I think we can, because it's just money sitting there. There's no requirement that I think that we charge
I just
each.
want to keep it in our house in order to where we can do it from now on and
Mhm.
not.
Well, we will need a formal policy on it, no doubt, but seeing how we're not going to have to do this until after October, that gives me a little bit of time towards the end of this month. We'll put the budget to bed tomorrow and get some time to work on the policy for such. I can get that to you, but for right now, if you guys are open to that, then I will just not have to worry about how we're gonna pay for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Instead of putting money in the capital, well, I guess it's still a capital lease, or how do you wanna call this?
Oh, I was thinking we would transfer the 260 or whatever the total payment is into precinct 2 and they'll pay, so in capital outlay, they'll need the same amount of capital outlay. And then they'll have a transfer back to you of a fourth of it, whatever.
What are you guys looking at terms on 260, 4 years? I don't wanna go out beyond anybody's term anymore.
Yeah.
When we're borrowing money, it's because we're here, 4 of us. If you only had 2 years left, let's say you got 2 years to pay for this, but you've got 4 years coming up. The reason I think that is you don't find your successor in office, if there is a successor in office, to the deals that you made. You're trying to give everybody some reasonable working room there. But if you guys are good with 4, I'm good with 4. That's considerable sum.
I don't like to go more than that.
Yeah,
I don't owe any money anyway, so.
if you want to go less, I'm open to that too. Just
I
trying
can,
to.
now I can't. I don't
Can't do
think I
that.
can do that one. Do that one, still use the truck.
Yeah, so in that case, well, we will, yes, sir, we will here in a minute, bear with me. So what we're talking about is then in the 7102, 4101, putting the 263,000 or whatever the number is in that. Is that what we're suggesting?
Yeah,
Okay, and then there's transfer, we're gonna have to add another line, transfer to general. Which would be 202, 57102. What is the transfer number?
57102 and then 9100.
9100? Okay, that's transfer line. 9100, 9100. And then so. Justin went to law school because he's not a mathematician, so
Yeah.
we're gonna need.
Is that all right with you guys?
We'll vote on here in a second.
Well, we're gonna have some money coming in from the sale of the parking lot and, so, you know, motion.
Yeah, that's what's going into our capital outlay for next fiscal year. Yeah, it's 722,000, which we need actually, I think, up that because we didn't calculate, here's calculate. So, see, I wish you could do it in your head quicker than I can do it on a calculator. Yeah, 65,750. So, and that's based off of a 263,000 number, because I don't have the exact number in front of me.
I can get the exact number later, but.
So right now it's placeholder. So do we have a motion for this next fiscal year to allow Commissioner Precinct to borrow an amount of 263,000 from the general fund in order to pay for a distributor truck and not accrue the interest by going out to a third party?
Make some terms in that.
Yeah, so what we'll do is $263,000. We will pay that back over a period of 4 fiscal years, FY 23, 24, 25, and 26, at a rate of $65,750 per year. That's, I guess that was my motion. Yeah. All right.
No, I just asking a question.
You said what we were gonna do. Yes, Tom told you how to make the watch. Come on now. All right, we have a motion in a second. Yes, sir.
Nothing.
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Motion carries unanimously. So that takes care of that. So that means of that, I gotta go back to page 8. Well, that's an easy math to do. You still got about $34,250 that you need to allocate if you want to allocate. I say leave that 5,000 as you've got, so you had $105,000 excess and two that you had not budgeted. 65,150 just got budgeted. So let's start with a round number of 100,000. Is that 5,000? We'll leave it there for cushion in case we don't collect. So that means you've still got $34,250
Yeah.
that you, where do you want to put it at?
Construction.
Construction materials.
Yes, sir.
So let's see, 3115. I'm gonna add 34,250. Yes, ma'am. Oh, am I wrong on the math?
No,
Okay.
I don't, so you're leaving the ending balance of 5,000.
Do you think that's enough? If not, we can put more of a cushion there.
I
Speak,
think it would be good for them to have at least 10,000 because you don't know.
I got you. So in which case then we just put straight 30,000. So that should leave you right at 10, correct? You have an amount of $30,000 to leave you right at a little over $10,000. So plus $30,000 to that. So that brings your construction materials line up to $190,000. Okay. All right, precinct 3, let's play the same game. Not a game, obviously, but I'm being facetious. Road and Bridge 3, you've got about $80,000. There's spare $85,000 that you could budget if you wanted to, or leave it in your unbudgeted reserve.
I think I need to put like. Put 25,000 fuel oil, 25,000 construction material.
25. And 3202. And then 3115, another 25. Okay. We got about 35,000 there. You need to allocate it.
Hey, well, let's do 25 or 50,000 on construction.
Okay, so 50 and 3115. All right,
And then that 25,000 fuel oil, that'll
Okay.
leave us about 10 in reserve.
that's gonna leave you about 75, you got nine, there's about 23,000 in reserve. Good enough? Okay, cool, so we're gonna put 50,000 to 3115 and 25,000 to 3202. Got it. Well, thank you for making that. Pleasant enough. Road and Bridge 4, you've got an additional $40,000 that you can allocate there.
Construction materials.
Okay, construction, Road and Bridge 4, we're gonna put that in the 3115. That's plus. Got it correct, I'm not thinking on this.
We did budget for your open position in precinct 4. I don't know, did anyone else have an open position?
You talk about 9,
Mhm.
I hope to fill that extra. For 12.
Okay. All right. Andy's not here, so I gotta call Andy and make some guesses on Andy, guys. He's got a considerable sum of money that's come in. That's obviously again from finally FEMA's paid off for, the road stuff. So on Road and Bridge 1, he's got 285, about 275,000, 270,000 actually that he can still budget in there. I know he's not here, but looking at his budget, I kind of need to do something with it.
Divide it 3 ways.
Yeah,
That's,
that'd be a nice neighborhood.
Yeah,
That motion we passed a while ago, we can pay for it right here.
yeah. Yes.
man, that'll teach you not to show up before Andy. Man, don't get sick around this group, you get bad. So
250 in construction material.
I think that's the way to go. Let's just hang 250 in construction materials. He can always move it inside of his budget as long as it's there.
Either that or capital outlay or capital lease or something.
I'm not gonna encourage that, put in construction materials. So we'll add 250 into his construction material because he just doesn't have anything in that budget at this moment. That's a 3115, 7101, 3115. All right, so that takes us to Road and Bridge FM lateral 1, which is the next department we've got to cover. FM lateral 1 has an additional $20,000 that they can allocate in FM lateral 1. He hasn't budgeted anything capital outlay or bridge infrastructure in the last 2 years. Does he have any payments coming up on those? Well, we've got that already. The capital lease, there's the payments on the capital lease. I think so. We put that 20,000 in capital outlay.
20.
Yes, no, 20,000. The rest of it can be a cushion. All right. FM2, you've got an additional 70,000 that you can allocate, still with a cushion.
Better make that 60.
Okay, 60,000.
It's construction.
Construction materials it is. So we're gonna make construction materials at $350,000 total.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so 3115 plus 60. Okay, all right. Then we have FM lateral 3, you've got about 25,000 you can allocate there. Give yourself a little cushion. Construction, 25,000, correct, yes. 25,000 to the 4101, no, I'm sorry, the 3115. So it's like 295. Okay, and then FM lateral 4, you have about 45,000 you can allocate out of there and still leave a little buffer. Construction material as well, plus 45 in construction.
So if we increase the sales tax, that won't change the FM lateral, but just put it in construction materials and your road and bridge budgets. and
Because you-
make sure that
You'll see a smattering of money out of that, but yeah. So everybody's agreed, just put in a 3115 line. If we see any extra funds, okay,
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. And what did we see on that? That was 45, yes, sir. Okay, so got it 60, it's 105,000 total. Okay. All right, and that's kind of the allocations that we need to do on that. Thank you for that. Your budgets are different than everybody else since you have the rollover from year to year. It's always the last minute figuring out calculations of what our expected beginning balances are going to be, which means we leave a little bit of cushion in case you overspend or something crazy happens in the next 2 weeks that we have something there. Cover that. Then indigent healthcare. You'll see there's some increases. One of the things you're going to see tomorrow is we're going to go out for request for proposals for inmate healthcare. We've got to. I'm seeing some issues down at the jail that we've never anticipated before or never seen before regarding needs for nurses. And we're going to have to figure out what we can reasonably and not reasonably do. We looked at extending the hours of a nurse, and guys, the price was, it was going to be almost $200,000 a year after what they wanted. So I don't know that that's even doable. All that being said, we have a number plugged in right now that we think would cover the current year on the month to month of 425,000. Again, that would cover it if the contract is on the thing, but you can call that contract set up with a cost pool. And there are certain pharmaceuticals our current provider doesn't pay for. Well, it seems like that secret list of pharmaceuticals gets longer all the time because my bills keep getting bigger every month. I don't know that 425,000 is enough to pay for that. What I would recommend on this is that we're going to have about 60,000 or so left in indigent health. I'd like to put that additional 50,000 in there, bring it to 475. And that way we've got just a little bit of room in there, some wiggle room. If we don't need it, no problem. You know, it transfers back out to general next year, but I'm afraid that 425 is not going to be reflective of what our costs are going to be, everything we found out in the last couple of weeks. So on the 5101, 2414 line, we're going to put an additional 50,000 in it and bring that up to 435K. Okay. Otherwise, law library, it is what it is. We take in the funds and we expend the funds solely for maintenance of the law library. We do pay for the inmate law library out of this as well. On page 76, we have the jury fund. Again, this is where we pay for all the court-appointed attorneys that we're required to, and a lot of other things. Psychological examinations have gone up, but we think we're keeping in line with budget. We worked with Judge Harris on this, Susan, and we feel pretty comfortable after review of these numbers again last week as to where we're at. Interest and sinking fund, again, is a function of what money we've borrowed, and our calculations is a repayment on that, as we spoke previously. So that's the general budget. Now, there are special budgets. Obviously, in court fees and filings, there's certain monies allocated by the state of Texas that we collect for certain programs. The language access fund, that's to pay for court translators, court interpreters. The county dispute resolution fund, which was new last year, we're collecting those monies because we have a dispute resolution program, aka think about like mediation. If we don't have that program, that money goes back to the state of Texas, so we're gonna have a program. Not often used, but we do have it. The county clerk's records are as she requested, record management and preservation is a district clerk, fund. On state, page 84, you have the sheriff's state investigative fund, which is their forfeitures, so you know, they pick up something on the side of the road. There's just, you know, no money out there on the highway land to be picked up, that just doesn't exist, so.
All those classic vehicles we got on there. We sell those.
We have sold, we got rid of a number of them, but remember, that's not just the sheriff, it's also the DA involved in that, and that's a split. I don't remember what the agreement is between those parties. But that split, they each get a portion of that, and I think they cleared a good bit of them off here recently. Yeah, they're down to just a few, you know, you have the Walter White Winnebago out there, but yeah. Might as well put a tracking beacon on that thing, it'll be in the meth lab someday. Probate education, we have fund again, feeds collected in probate filings. We put that money in here to try to educate clerks and the judge. We're going to use all the help we can get. But again, you see that my expenditures for my education are down because after being appointed to the county judge's education committee for the state, they basically frank all of my education now. They don't, the county doesn't pay for it. A couple extra hours a year for me, a couple extra times I got to travel, it gets paid for, and the county saves several $1,000s. I think it's well worth it for the county. Probate records management is another fee they collect. This is to pay for records management. Think about like record preservation, the old books, and automation. And so if we're going to spend something out of this budget, like many of these special budgets, we actually have to go to the commissioner's court and ask approval to expend before we expend those funds. Previously, what we've got is about the transfer out on the 9901 fund. That'll be used to do another one of those volumes, those old volumes, restore it. Those are expensive things to do.
I think that's kind of just the allocation of the software cost.
That's true too. That's, yeah, that's, and of course, the allocation part of the Navigator comes out of that as well, because we do use Navigator for probate court. Technology fund is fund for collecting with civil filings, the county clerk archive fees, and other money to be expended for preservation, restorations, restoration performed by the county clerk in connection with maintaining the clerk's record. District clerk archive, same thing for district clerk. Here's the tourism fund, the hotel motel tax. And we upped it a little bit on the hotel motel tax. Our FY actual 21 was 34,976. We actually pulled in 34. We really cut it on 22 because of COVID, and we dropped it down 22,000. We're probably going to get somewhere in the 30,000 neighborhood on actual collections. Now, the other thing is this GovOS comes online. We did not budget for it because I don't know how to yet. I'm just taking a guess, anything I do. But I do anticipate with the Airbnbs, the VDROs, this, you know, those kind of allocations, those kind of lodging options, as we start collecting the taxes on those more and more, that we're going to see that number go up. But again, that's a guess. I can't prove it to you yet. If we take the money in, we'll obviously I'll get the budget since the first year we're doing it, though we're still being conservative with this number. No telling them things go to heck again basket, but we'll figure it out. Oh, guys, what else? So we have, again, we've projected revenues, I'm sorry, expenditures in excess of revenue because we're starting with 150,000 in that budget. And so we were about 22,000, almost $23,000 over our projected revenue for our expenditures. Again, we'll pay our dues and memberships to Texas Hotel Motel Association, any contract services we have, that's for the maintenance of the website, upgrades on it, some miscellaneous, and then payments to agencies. That's where we'll send out our program in October and solicit for bids for projects. Or and vice versa, we don't have to choose not to do that. We can work with the local chambers like we did previously to find projects to the chambers as they come through. The courthouse security fund, that money's transferred back into the bailiff's line item, county clerk probate court preservation fund. Again, purpose to digitize court records and preserve the records from natural disaster. It's not a whole lot of money we collect each year, about $760, but it amounts to some. Election elites fund. You know, I thought we changed that for the rentals. Okay, let me talk to Aaron because that 265, 370. There's going to be some next year, and we have nothing projected at the moment. I need to talk to Aaron about that. I'll do that this afternoon or this morning. And then, of course, the maintenance out of that fund, we're starting with a fairly hefty balance, 25,600, and we're allocating $10,000 out of that. So, then we have Economic Development Fund. So about that, our capital credits, I've got it budgeted 22,000. What was the amount of that check we pulled in last 2 weeks ago? 120,000. What I'm trying to tell you is it varies from year to year, what we wind up with. That's the one I come to ask you guys to apply to the comptroller for any capital credit refunds. And they come into us, we can use it for economic development. So we received a considerable amount of cash. So you see a year-to-date actual is 0, though year-to-date actual as of last week is now 120,000 change. So our beginning balance is going to go up drastically. With that being said, I have total expenditures of 100,000 here. I would like, and I mean, we got a projected beginning cash balance of 284. We're looking at, that's going to now be somewhere closer to 400,000. With the expenditure we made, I would like to up the total expenditures. Namely, what we've got now is most of it's in contract services. Since we don't have an in-house office, we're going to have a contract with a third party to provide economic development. We've got the money. We have, I think we have the ability to use it to try to improve economic development. You know, we've participated in the what was just the word, the survey that we did recently with the city of Hillsborough for all the county. I need to get those documents to you guys, some really interesting facts about these cities. We're meeting with the small cities that we hold, Tasca, Whitney, Hubbard, and getting these numbers out to their chambers and their economic development people so they can use those and trying to decide, well, who's shopping where are people going to shop, who's coming into our facility, what are people looking for. Again, it's all based off of data tracked on cell phones, but it is mind-boggling how people travel and how people shopping habits are. So doing that try to help the whole county. I would like to propose maybe another 50,000 in contract services. If that's allowable, because I think we're going to have that. No one's got any objection to that. Appreciate it. Of course, everything that goes out of that fund comes before you come in first before you expend it. So the ARP grant funds, yay. That's Joe Biden monies, as they call them. It's actually your tax money. You'll get to pay this back. But that being said, we have allocated all those funds towards construction of Covington and what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Covington and the Fairgrounds project. So AgriLife building. Specialty court. This is another filing fee that we collect for special supports, aka drug court program that we run for juveniles. Court facility fee fund. The state comes up with the wildest ones. This is part of the SB. It's part of the SB 41 that came out in January, effective January this year. It's a consolidated fee. These are our projections in those. 2022 tax note construction details. That is the monies that we received, the $2.5 million that we brought in the tax note. Again, we're paying for that out of the interest and sinking fund, but this is an allocation expenditure for where that money is going. And then you come back to page 100. Wow, the budget's 100 pages at this point, isn't that something? So general fund, you'll see takes of the general fund revenue that comes in. 83% goes to general fund, 8% goes to engine health by law, and 9% now goes to road and bridge. And again, that's my limit, guys. I'm not going over 9. I just can't. I got to fund everybody else at the same time funding you. So interest and sinking, you see allocated how our tax rate breaks down, what our current rates are, what our ad valorem tax would be if 100% collected, which will be pretty close to that. Between what we're going to collect for this year and then our delinquencies from previous years, we get pretty close to 100% each year. If you guys got questions, looking at the breakout, you're seeing your percentage that comes out of a court case. Everybody sued each other sometime in the past. And that allocation of how those monies break out. And so you got a current collection of 96%, 96.5%, and delinquent of 3.5%. So that brings us to 100. You see the sales tax allocation for each precinct, and of course, then to the right of that is your FM lateral tax, your current revenue as well. Page 101 continues that. Again, there is, the division of taxes continues on page number 102. The tax assessor collectors VIT, I'm sorry, this is, VIT fund is on page 103. That's a vehicle inventory tax that they collect, and they're allowed to expend. They still have to set a budget, and they make it a part of this as they do. Then in the back of this, you'll see our 2002 tax rate calculation worksheet that we're required to put in this document. And that takes us all the way through the end. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the proposed budget to be adopted with the aforementioned changes. If you find anything this morning, let me know. But don't come in here tomorrow morning at 8:30 and go, oh, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you might not be well received. That's all I'm saying. We love everybody, but there's a lot of work going in behind the scenes on this stuff. We're killing forests here trying to think these things. All right, so you've heard the aforementioned, which I took notes from. And I know Tamara took even better notes than I took, because I've seen our previous notes, so we're in good shape. You've heard the aforementioned proposed changes to the budget. May I ask for a motion to approve those changes?
Make a motion to approve the change.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the aforementioned changes, which I've noted, and Tamara will nicely check my notes for me, please, after the meeting. Thank you, and we'll provide it to the county clerk. All right, motion and second, any further discussion on budget? I'm gonna call in favor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? No abstentions. All right, motion carried unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. So we've taken our budget workshop, we've taken action on the budget, and now is number 3, discussion and take action on road and bridge policy amendment. So we all saw the big sheet, right, last time? Everybody got a chance to propose? Yes, please. Again, I reiterate, this is the beginning of fixing our entire.
It is, it just has the policies on it now.
Thank you, madam. Yeah. No, but I can take action when I have an agenda item right after the workshop. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In a workshop, you could not. You have to have an action item to take action. So that's where we put the discussion action. Good question. Go ahead, Ms. Tanner.
So the top page is the policy, amended policy to include the new road and bridge pay salary.
So Cameron worked on a lot of this, a lot of this wording. I lawyered it up just a hair to make it fit into our proposed administration policies and procedures. Again, these are proposed. We kept it straightforward and simple. We tracked language in the current administration policies and procedures. So increases in Hill County Road and Bridge employees' salary/pay shall be subject to the following rules. 1, any changes to the road and bridge pay system, and see attached road and bridge pay system, which is this thing. Must be approved by a 4/5 vote of the commissioners board. 2, any proposed pay grade increases shall apply to all road and bridge employees, shall apply to all road and bridge precincts. AKA, if we come in and say, okay, next year, it's not going to be 3% between a general 1, labor 1, general labor 2. We're going to make it 4% or 2.5%. That way we keep the precinct uniform. We don't have one where it's a 3% separation, one where it's 1.5%. In other words, a 4%. That's all that's meant by that. Number 3, cost of living adjustments must be uniform across all precincts and must be approved by majority vote of commissioners board. I think that's common sense, but I put it down anyway. We do the same COLA for every employee in the county most years, so we want to do the same thing here. 4, due to the adjusting of pay scales to make employees uniform, the county cost of living adjustment for FY23 will not be applicable to all employees. There's some folks that are going to jump up way ahead and get outside this scale if we do that. Everybody gets a raise, and some guys are going to get a heck of a raise. But to make this thing work this time, everybody's getting something, but you can't go, oh, we're doing this and then 5%. That throws the scale back off. We have to adhere to these numbers in here. Hence why that is in our policy for this 1 year, so that we can equalize everything and then going forward. And then 5, this policy becomes effective October 1st, 2022. that's how simple we've made this. I worded it up pretty good, and Miss Lewis came looked over my shoulder and said, that's a pretty dumb idea. So I listened to her some days. So we just went back to a lot of the original language we had and tried to make it simple to understand, simple to operate.
Everybody knows that.
Yes, yes, sir. It'll be uniform, all four precincts.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, this latest budget book already has in there.
Yes, we talked about, yes. And that's reflected in your current budgets. We figured you guys were gonna pass this, so we made some assumptions. And just try to get some of the work done ahead of time. If you didn't pass it, we're gonna go back and just rip all that money back out, go back to 8.5%, fix it good. It's not great, nobody's been threatened. Questions on the policy or on the pay schedule? What's actually called the pay system in our policy. We all use the term pay schedule for this, but I went back and it's actually called pay system. So that's the reason it's called pay system in here. I just tried to match the terminology to the existing what we've got. And this amendment will fall in the proposed, the Hill County Administration Policies and Procedures under section, the bottom of the third page, can't remember the section number, 3 or 4, maybe it is. I didn't.
I'm good with it. That's why.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not part of it. I hate to make a motion. But, well.
Okay. You got a motion and a second to approve the proposed amendment to the Hill County Salary Administration Policies and Procedures for the Hill County Road and Bridge Departments. Is that your motion? Yes, sir. Wonderful. That's your second? Wonderful. All right, any further discussion? Gentlemen, I appreciate you doing this. This is the first path to getting a lot of things corrected. Now that we've got our house in order, we can turn around and take care of the rest of this, make it competitive. We have to be competitive, as you guys know, because we have business coming in, people coming in. It's getting harder and harder to keep our employees. We pour tons of money into people, training them, and then they can walk out. There's just nobody comes off the street with most of the job function knowledge that we need in this courthouse. So I appreciate you taking this first step, and I look forward to working with you guys and getting the rest of it fixed. That being said, is there any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Mr. Crumpy,
Yes, sir.
one last item.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Thank you. We stand adjourned. Thank you for your attention to these matters.
All right.
You got that.